One of my first questions I asked people when they do, because I do some consulting for tours or whatever, what kind of person are you? What do you like? Because based on that, you may not want to go to that part of town.
I'm Wendy Holloway, and this is Flavor of Italy, sharing the very best of Italian food and wine, lifestyle, and culture. This is Wendy Holloway with Flavor of Italy, and I'm back to share a wonderful trip idea for you, or let's say activity idea for you if you're here and down in the Campania region, which is where Naples is located. And my guest today is Karen Phillips from Andiamo Trips, and Andiamo means let's go. And we met through the writing platform Substack, and then I honed in on the fact that Karen does all these super cool things. One of the things I really love is what Karen calls sip at sea. And she's a sommelier. And so let's say you travel to one of the islands or something and you're out on a boat down there. You do a wine tasting experience right at sea, which I think is amazing. But then we're also going to talk about a few neighborhoods in the Naples area that people don't normally focus on and go to. But I'm talking too much. Welcome, Karen Phillips, and take it away.
First of all, for inviting me, Wendy. Yes, we did meet on Substack. And let me just tell you briefly a little bit about my background briefly. I've been in Campania region for 33 years. But back in 2008, 2009, Andiamo Trips was born thanks to some friends of mine who wanted me to help them out, taking them to wineries and translating for them because I speak both languages. As the years went on, this turned into a fun group that turned into basically a blog that turned into me deciding to get my sommelier diploma, turned into me getting interested in food. It turned into me getting interested in travel. And so that's how it grew. I am not a tour guide. I just want to explain that because as Wendy knows, in Italy, to be a tour guide, it's very strict to the regulations. But what I do is host experiences. Being a teacher as well, that's my background. And I left teaching 3 years ago to do this full time. I've decided to host experiences. And See and Sip, as you mentioned, is one of the experiences that I decided to host. And it was based on my love of learning and having to be on site, so to speak, and learn it in a different way. Storytelling, being on a boat. I've hosted tours in the past where we've gone to Ischia and we called it vineyard hopping. We hopped to 3 or 4 different wineries on that island. I've hosted wine tastings where we've studied about different great varieties in the Campania region because in Campania, it may be in respect to some of the regions in northern Italy, Campania has a lot of chocolate varieties that we find here. And so you won't, in this region, you won't find a lot, any Pinot Grigio, Chardonnay, or maybe you might find some winemakers putting that in, but in this region, particularly in Campi Flegrei, which also known as the Phlegrean Fields, is very, we have volcanic wines here. So when I'm talking about the Campi Flegrei area, I'm talking about Pozzuoli. If you're familiar, you've probably heard a lot of that, especially over the past couple of years with the tremors and earthquake, whatever. But one of the things about the soil here, it's volcanic, it's sandy, it's fertile. So the wines here, the grape varieties like your Falanghina, like your Piediroso, Falanghina is a white wine. your Piedi Rosso, which is a red wine, have a particular flavor profile, either with the aromas and with the taste. And so they go well with the dishes of the region. When I'm also included is Ischia, when I want to talk about Ischia and Procida also in this region. So imagine a sea and sip. You have a day out on a boat. You're splashing in the water after you've taken your dive, maybe taken a little passeggiata, a little stroll around the island. But then you have a chance to get back on the boat and we can talk the wines, we can talk about the area. And that is the whole idea of the sea and sip.
I love it. I love it. I'm going to do it.
Oh, it'd be great. These are for groups of anywhere from up to 10 people and on availability, because depending on the size of the group and depending on the type of vessel that you want, we'd have to arrange that. And in the summer months, it's ideal to do it a Monday through Friday, because especially with the August coming up, weekends are too crazy, and the availability and the feasibility cost-wise is just very difficult to manage. So I always recommend a Monday to Friday, because you have a better chance of enjoying yourself. No one wants to be out on a boat and it's like a traffic jam. You want to, over tourism has hit the seas as well in some cases. Another tour or another opportunity that can also be requested through me could be what I call ancient Baia flavors, which the Baia area, Baia and Bacoli, is also near Pozzuoli, also in the Campi Flegrei area, but it's also home to an underground archaeological park, so to speak. We have ruins underground because the Roman Empire was in this area. They had their villas, they had their spas, and a lot of that is underwater. So I have also a collaboration with a local restaurant and a local glass bottom boat company for us to take a look at these ruins, be explained to us in English or Italian, what we're seeing, the mosaics. It's beautiful. The mosaics, the statues, the history. So being out on the boat for their glass bottom boat for about an hour, and then coming back on land to a restaurant that is called Riccio Restaurant, right on the port, a restaurant that is in the Michelin Guide, not a Michelin star, but in the Michelin Guide, and have a wine tasting there, tasting the seafood. The chef is very particular where he ages seafood like tuna or other type of fish and makes them and cures them like a salami. So that's also interesting that sounds very interesting. And to have a lunch with, and also be having a wine tasting course as well. So it's a combination of a day out on the boat, a different type of experience, but then coming back, okay, now let's taste these wines and have them with something to eat, because that's the beauty of drinking wine. I don't know, before I got here, I wasn't a wine drinker, and in Italy especially, it's the importance of pairing the wine. So it doesn't necessarily matter if you get the most expensive bottle of wine, so to speak, when you go out to dinner, because if it doesn't go with the food you're going to eat, it's a waste. So that's another thing that we learn about the wine pairing, and that was one of the reasons I got into writing about food, because of the fact that while taking the sommelier course, it's a 3-level course. The 3rd level was where you learn about wine and food pairing. And to me, that was like, there's a purpose to this. It's not just opening a bottle of wine and eating some chips, which is fine too. But it's amazing how a different glass of wine can change the meal.
Absolutely. Yeah. That sounds incredible. Tell us more. We were talking when we spoke last week, I believe it was, about some of the incredible neighborhoods that you explore in the Naples area. Because tell a little bit of your backstory, how long you've been in Naples, and how did you end up living there?
And I was in the Air Force. I had a scholarship paid for college, and I was told I needed to do 4 years of military service as an Air Force officer. I ended up doing 6, and the last 2 years brought me to the Naples area. Here, there is a pretty large military population. There is a U.S. naval base in the area, but there's also a NATO base in the area, and that's where I was. What happened at the end of my 2-year tour, I happened to fall in love. I got married, and I never went back. And so when I got out of the service, I taught for 20 years in different international schools. And it was also there that I met that friend group, and that's how Andiamo Trips began. I live a little outside of Naples, maybe a 20-minute drive by car. But what I like to do, because it's not the best place to park, I don't mind driving in Naples. And after all this time here, I've gotten used to driving. The difficult thing is parking. Finding parking and can also be expensive. So I prefer the public transportation, which for where I live, it's not bad. Talking about the neighborhoods there, I know many people, when they do come and they have a day or a few hours or so, a lot of them go to what we call the Quartiere Spagnoli, the Spanish Quarter, which has become quite popular over the past few years, or the Spacca Napoli, which is basically Napoli split in half. If you see from a map above, you can see there's basically a line that takes you from one side of the town all the way up to the hill in Vomero. But what a lot of people do not go to are 2 areas that I have also gone into, so to speak, over the past few years. One of them is called the Rione Sanità, which is a health neighborhood based on, which has an interesting backstory, a background. That used to be also an area of town which was not very seedy, if I want to use that word to go into, but it has a lot of history. Over the past few years, however, a lot of associations and co-ops founded by young people, and I say young, I don't mean teenagers, but 20-somethings, so you're Gen Z, who have decided to take back their neighborhood, helped with funding by the state and also private funding to open up catacombs, to open up museums, to open up other locations, and to open it up to not only Neapolitans, but to tourists. And in fact, I've written an ebook on that. So that's a place that is fun to go. And a lot of catacombs, museums, really nicely preserved. And just pick a couple places to go. We can have an aperitivo or a pizza, because my guides also include how to get there, where to sign up, where to shop, or where to eat. Places that I've personally been to. And that's one of the things that I prefer when I do write a guide. It's somewhere that I've been, or somewhere that is highly recommended by a trusted friend, a Neapolitan, or what have you.
Your ebook is, so if somebody was heading down to Naples for the day, they could download your ebook and just use that to guide them through the Rione Sanità.
Right now, it's not available to download. And in the future, it will be. And one of the reasons is it isn't, because of things that can change. And so if there's a link, it's a flip book. I don't know if it's a flip book. So you can get the link, and click on updates, because one of the things I was struggling with when I decided to make this eMag is I make it available as a PDF, and then 3 months from now, something changes. So that was the thing I was struggling with. However, I've tested it out. It works well. The area is 99.9% of the time. If you've got your access to internet, then it's not a problem in those areas if your phone. And I think also because that works well with the connection to the Google Maps, if you're trying to get from one place to the other. And so that was one of the reasons why downloading. However, if somebody would like to request and say, Karen, can I have a PDF? I don't mind sending the PDF. I might maybe even include the download link on it if something changes. But that was one of the things I did struggle with when I first decided.
Sure.
Villa is another neighborhood that is also, I think, next up and coming in a different way. Once again, a part of town that is a few years ago, people would not walk down, particularly at night, because known for being not a place that you'd want to go for various reasons. However, once again, the people of the area are taking it back. And I've been recently on some really interesting tours. One thing about Naples, it's also known as the city with 500 cupole. And they've recently, at the main cathedral in Naples, have a tour where they take you up to the roof of the Duomo, and they explain, and you can see the whole city and point out, you can see how things are connected and how the different neighborhoods connect and things like that. And so it's really exciting. And so once again, if you go to Forcella, which in respect to your Quartieri Spagnoli, your Spacca Napoli, it is less touristy. So I think if you're looking even for an authentic neighborhood, it's still there, meaning you don't find people coming out to you so much trying to sell you something in the middle of the street. There's a little bit of, but it's a neighborhood. You've got your people going shopping, you're buying their fruit, going to the butcher. It's a neighborhood people live in, and it's not as touristy, though there's a lot to offer there. There in that neighborhood, they have the first orphanage in southern Italy, if not Italy at all, where people would leave their babies in this door, this window, and leave their babies there. You've got so much history there. And when you're there with a guide who would point something out that you may not even know when you're just walking down the street, because as years have passed and buildings have been built over Greek ruins, because the Greeks were there first, and then the Romans came, and so you're walking by and a boom underneath. Oh, what's that over there? Oh, that's 2,000 plus years old. And your guide will tell you a little bit of that. And it's just, wow. Next to you have a bar where you get a cappuccino. You know what I'm saying? And so Forcella is another area. And many people probably know that part of town if they go to stand in line for 2 hours to get a pizza at Antica Pizzeria da Michele, the famous pizzeria where in Julia Roberts' way, in that movie, Eat, Pray, Love. And so people go there, but it's like, wow, but next to that building, if you go upstairs, there is this garden attached to a church, which nobody knows about because it's just now getting back rebuilt, renovated, new people sharing this part of the area. And that is what I really love about Naples and Campania as well. But recently I've been spending a lot of time in Naples. Things are being discovered all the time. They start to build a new stop for a metro line, and then boom, they find ruins underground where you take the boats to the island. It's called Molo Bevereno. When they were renovating that part of the port, they found ancient ruins. And so when you go to take the boat or take a aliscafo, a hydrofoil to go to Capri, and I know you're going to Capri later on this year with some friends, you'll notice in the ticket area and the waiting area, they left it there so people can see the ruins and
Oh,
the
interesting. Oh, thank you for pointing that out. Yeah.
no, it's really I usually because I live closer to Pozzuoli, so when I go to Ischia, that's where I leave from. But I took a hydrofoil a few months ago, and I hadn't been to that port in a few years, and I saw the renovation, and I was like, wow. But yeah, they have you can see the ancient ruins there, and it's amazing how much history there is.
It's absolutely incredible. So, do you have an ebook also for the Forcella?
That should be my plan was to have that out last week. That should be out, I hope, by Wednesday. I hope by Wednesday, yeah. And when it does come out, the news is on my Substack. It's on my social media, on my site with the link. I have an e-mag on Procida. I have an e-mag on two parts of Ischia, L'Aquameno, and also another one on Casamicciola. More of what to do there in a day. Ischia is huge, an island that is definitely worth visiting and exploring. It's hard to do in a day, but sometimes that's all people have. A day, a few hours.
Right.
It's different when you live here and you can say, okay, I want to go for lunch. But when you come to Italy and you have 5 days or whatever, I know how difficult it can be to try to experience everything you want to do on your bucket list and what have you.
That's why people don't think they could do Naples or one of the islands in a day, but you can. The trains from Rome, they're constant down to Naples. They're only just a bit over an hour. You get there, you get a cab, fixed price, right down to the port, and people could connect in with you to do the sip and see or one of these neighborhoods we've just been talking about, island visits. It's all doable if you want to set aside a day and just get on that train, which they're so inexpensive.
They
And
are.
it's all very doable.
It is. And I think the important thing, and I know, especially with social media over the past few years, people go and they will try to do maybe too much or do too much of the same thing. And I think if you talk to someone like me or someone who knows an area, any area, one of my first questions I asked people when they do, because I do some consulting for tours or whatever, what kind of person are you? What do you like? Because I've written a couple of tongue-in-cheek blogs, a travel persona. What kind of person are you? Because based on that, you may not want to go to that part of town. You might want to see this instead. Or did you know this? If you're a 30-something, you might prefer going to this museum. If you love art history, you might, I mean, there is so much going into it. And a lot of times what happens, and I'm sure any type of travel, people look at something and they try to fit themselves into it. And maybe they come back, oh, I didn't like that part of town. That part of town maybe was not for you. Maybe you're not the person that wants to drink the €1 spritz. I made a little post about that, a little comment about that, a note the other day. Maybe you're not a one-person spritz. Maybe you're a solo traveler who likes art history, or maybe you want to go to the sea, or maybe you want to go up towards the vulnerable area, which is another part of Naples, or Chiaia, another neighborhood in Naples, which we often don't see, that it's not the hit and run type of thing. Or maybe you want to go to the Capodimonte Museum. So a lot of that depends on, okay, I didn't like Naples, but maybe you went to a part that wasn't for you.
Right. I think a lot of times travelers come and they're ticking off the boxes of other people's itinerary. They might not, as you say, be an art gallery person, but they hear things and they feel that they should do something other than what do I like? Or how about creating some other tick off the box wonderful thing that you learn about yourself that you can then share with people? It's get off of that kind of a mindset of doing the things you think you should rather than what you like.
Because especially if you're coming from outside of Italy, it's different if you live in Rome, you can come back and forth as often as you want or whatever. If you're within Italy, because with train travel, it's very easy to get around. But if you're coming here on a vacation once in a lifetime, think of what you like. I'm sure I'm in Facebook groups, people asking, where do I go? What do I do? But you haven't told me who you are, what your budget is, where should I stay? What should I do? I love food, but I'm not a street food person. I like my pizza fritta, but I want to sit down and eat it in a pizzeria. I don't want to walk around and sit on a sidewalk. Maybe 20 years ago, that was me. Karen of today, no. And so that's why it's important to see what, like you said before, what do you want to do? How can you make that memorable for you? And
Karen, you've given us lots of great ideas, and quite a few of them are things I haven't done and I'm going to do. I've already told you I'm going to do the sip and see. I just love that idea. But I will include in the show notes your website and where people can find you, your social media, your Substack. And then they can connect with you directly and dig deeper and start to enjoy some of your incredible ideas. So thank you so much.
thank you.
This has been Flavor of Italy. Find us on www.flavorofitaly.com and on Substack, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook, always as Flavor of Italy.